Hi, I'm Dr. Molly with Your Goals Physical Therapy. Today, I am very excited that I get to share a success story about a woman who recently had a bunion removed. And when I met Alicia, it was after a very long journey for her. So she is a shoe fanatic. She loves her cute shoes, which of course normally means that they're high heels and maybe they're not the most comfortable. So she is, not opposed to a little bit of discomfort for her cute shoes. But over time, what happened is that her big toe kind of started to cross over, which she was putting up with just fine. She was perfectly okay with that. But when she started to develop like a little bone, they call it like a bunionette, on the outside of her foot, like where her pinky toe is, that was just too much. She couldn't handle that pain. It hurt every time she put her shoe on. It hurt when she was walking. It just hurt all the time. So she ended up going to her to a surgeon and having that removed. So she was gung-ho to be back in those cute shoes and back to her normal lifestyle because she's only in her 40s. So she's relatively, she's young and she's active and she wants to get back out there. And so she did exactly what the doctor told her. She wore her walking boot when she was supposed to. She started her physical therapy. And in fact, when she was in physical therapy, she even went and bought all the equipment they were using. So they had her on a balance board. She had those. She went and bought marbles. She did everything that she was supposed to do to the letter. She followed their exercise program. She did everything that she could. And then about like 2 weeks after she got out of the walking boot, they said, you know what, you're doing great. You can do this on your own. And they discharged her from therapy. And so she went home and she did her best. She was doing her exercises the way that they taught her. And she was, like I said, she already had all the equipment. So she is ready. She's like, if I'm already discharged from therapy, that means a couple more weeks, I'm going to be done. I'm going to be happy. Everything's going to be back to normal. Well, fast forward, about 4 weeks after that, and she's still having pain. Her foot still swells every morning. She still can't put her foot on the floor. Her big toe still doesn't move. She's like, that's crazy. She can't tolerate putting on shoes for very long because just the sock hurts her scar. And that's like with her rubbing. I mean, she was doing things to make that better, but it was just not improving. And so she was convinced. She's like, well, I have to be doing something wrong. So she's trying, every day, and pushing herself and just getting more and more frustrated and feeling more and more like she was doing something dramatically wrong. Like it has to be her fault. The doctor says that everything's healed good. The physical therapist says she's doing all of her exercises right. So what am I doing wrong? What is going on? So a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. She starts going onto the internet because of course that's where you get all your answers. And she finds one of my blogs about how just getting out of a walking boot is basically the start of any kind of healing. And so she thought about it, and she worked up enough nerve to email me. And she told me later that she was like petrified that all I was going to do is say, well, you're doing everything you can, or, well, you must have messed something up because you should be fine by now. But that is not exactly what I told her. I told her, of course you still have pain. There's no way that you wouldn't still have pain and swelling only 8 to 10 weeks after, you had surgery. You're having to change absolutely everything about your foot, right? That bunion didn't happen that they removed, right? It didn't happen overnight. That took years of developing. Even a little bunionette that was small, that wasn't something that happened in a month or two. That happened over years of your foot hitting the ground or rubbing on your shoe or some kind of force over years was causing that bone to develop more and more because it was trying to protect itself. That's why your body develops that extra bone, is that it's trying to fortify itself. It's trying to make itself stronger against something that's hitting it or pulling on it. And so if your toe is crossing, that didn't happen overnight. That is a long-standing way of how you're walking, which can be indicative of a lot of things. Is it something from your hip? Is it something from your foot? Something is going on that is making you change where you're hitting your foot when it lands and pushing on that big toe, which causes it to eventually cross over. And so I was like, that makes perfect sense. And then when you get out of the walking boot, now it doesn't have any protection. And so now your foot's having to do all this extra work. So I was like, it makes perfect sense. I said, you're having to change how that joint moves and how those muscles move. That's not going to take just 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks helps you heal basically where the bone was cut, your skin, and all the things related to the surgery. But in terms of like the overall function of your foot, that's going to take a while. And so she was like, whew, giant weight's been lifted. I thought I'd been doing all these wrong things. I was feeling horrible about myself and super stressed out that this was never going to end and this was just going to be my life. And why did I even bother to have this surgery if this is how it was going to be? And I was like, well, no. We just have to figure out what it is that's causing it to happen for you. But in general, all of those things are true. And so when we did the eval, we were able to look at her hips, we were able to look at her ankle, and we were able to come up with a plan to get her back to her active lifestyle. We were also able to talk about how to get her scar not to be so sensitive when it touches her sock, and how to make that all progress. And so so now here we are, we're at, basically at the end of everything, and she is able to walk normally. She has much less swelling in her foot. Some of that still kicks up every time she increases her activity, but she knows how to handle it now. Her toe is basically 100% into range of motion. She's doing great. She can tolerate being at work all day in her shoes. So she is just loving life right now. And all because she was brave enough to send an email. So if you or somebody that you know has had a bunion or some form of foot surgery and it is taking way longer than they thought it should to heal, and they're feeling like they've done something wrong, some anxiety related to that, maybe a little bit, depression happens all the time when you don't feel like your body moves the way it should, then send me a direct message or an email and let's see if how we can help you, okay? I hope you're having a great day. Talk to you next time.